Joining us today. My name is Leanne Reynolds, and I am the president of the New Hampshire Environmental Educators Board. And so we offer programs like this, professional development opportunities for environmental educators in the state of New Hampshire. And now that everything's virtual, folks are tuning in from all over the place, which is awesome. As you can see on the screen right now, we have two more presentations in this series coming up, and we encourage you to check out those details. Details can be found at nhee.org. And I will post all of these links in the chat as well. And so, given the lack of time, we're gonna jump right in. A few announcements on behalf of NHEE is we are currently seeking new board members. So if you're interested in joining the board, you can email us. And we also are accepting nominations for the New Hampshire Environmental Educator of the Year Award. And the deadline is tomorrow. So, you know, no rush, but get those in. It's not too detailed of a application, so it shouldn't take too long. But we encourage everybody to nominate their favorite environmental educator. And so today, though, you're here to learn about all of the fabulous virtual programs that are being offered around the state. We have 6 organizations joining us today who are going to share what they are up to in the virtual realm. And so we're going to start with Susie from the Harris Center for Conservation Education.
Hey everybody. Well, first I want to thank NHEE for putting this on. This is great, and just want a shout out to NHEE for being such a great statewide organization and giving support. I know that many of our teachers have really found these programs and the support happening through NHEE as a kind of a lifeline during these strange times. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Here we go. I'm going to get right from the beginning. Oh, sorry about that. All right, for those of you who aren't maybe familiar with the Harris Center, we're located in Hancock, New Hampshire in the Monadnock region. And we've been operating since 1970 as a land trust and a place that really works on getting people out on the land. We you can see our mission on the bottom, but we have a mission. We like to say that we like to help people fall in love with the place that they live in. And we went from a really active, hands-on, people-on programming before COVID. We have what we like to call a lifespan program approach, where we work with people from babies in backpacks. I've had babies as young as about 3 weeks old on my hikes to people in assisted living and hospice care. And all of our programs are really about the Monadnock region. So we went from this very active, hands-on, experiential programming to this kind of programming where we have a lot of masks. And we actually do some in-person programming at the Harris Center. We keep our groups really small. We work with our local school districts and we are doing in-person programming there, but not inside the classroom. So all of our it's all field-based, which has been really fun. And we're doing some homeschool program, but a huge majority of what we're up to is a lot of Zoom programs and a lot of using new types of platforms like Nearpod and Seesaw to get our students who we teach also remotely to be able to collaborate and connect online through our programming. We also have been very active in getting people out on our trails. The Harris Center has protected over 24,000 acres and has over 21 miles of trails in the Monadnock region. And this opportunity, you know, it's the silver lining of the pandemic, which we all talk about. It kind of reminded us we didn't have kiosks on all our trailheads, and we didn't really have things for people to do on the trail. So we've been very active on getting kiosks built and putting up lots of opportunities for people to experience walking on the trails by themselves. But I want to talk today about our Zoom, and this is a cartoon that was actually drawn by John Benjamin, who's one of our teacher naturalists at the Harris Center. And I know everybody's probably zoomed out, and here we are in another Zoom, and I actually have to leave early to go to a Zoom, but I do want to talk about how we got really creative at the Harris Center. We actually have been offering a huge amount of Zoom programming, from virtual after-school clubs that are on Zoom, like Lab Girls. Lab Girls is a program for middle and high school girls to keep them connected to science and technology, engineering, and math through the environmental lens. And this is a program that I can't even tell you, it's like 150 girls from all over the United States and Canada and a few European nations have signed up to be part of this. We also have been developing a speaker series. We're running one right now called Women in Science. We typically get on our Zoom program between 100 to 250 people. We had to up our Zoom account. You can find out all about it on our website, which I'll have the information on the last slide. We've also been developing lots of opportunities for teachers. If you visit our website, we have a whole nature journaling section as a resource, so teachers can learn how to do nature journaling on their own. We've been developing little movies that you can check out on YouTube, our Wild at Home series, which focuses on little animals nearby, like ladybugs, pillbugs, and even your household dog makes a appearance in these movies. And we've been developing scavenger hunts and treasure hunts and story walks for people to do around the Monadnock region. So I'm going to just wrap up by saying you can find out a lot more about the Harris Center and all that we're offering by visiting our website, which is www.harriscenter.org. There's our list of events. We have great things coming up. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and you can also check out our YouTube channel, which has grown quite a bit over this time. We post most of the videos that we record, or the Zoom sessions that we record, on the YouTube channel. So that's about all that I have to say. And again, I want to thank you for inviting the Harris Center to be part of this, and I'm looking forward to hearing what other people are up to.
Thank you so much, Susie. We are going to now hear from Audrey Eisenhower, who is at the Squam Lakes Natural Science Center.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar, co-hosted by several organizations, including New Hampshire environmental educators. I am here at Squam Lakes Natural Science Center, which is in Holderness, New Hampshire. And we have been offering a whole variety of virtual programming featuring our live animal ambassadors, like this one I have with me today, our North American porcupine. And we started doing virtual programming a year ago in March, when we weren't able to welcome students to our site for field trips like we usually do in the spring. And so we were able to bring our live animal ambassadors to students throughout New Hampshire and even beyond through our virtual programming. So the majority of our school programs that we would offer to students in person, the indoor live animal ones where students get to meet 3 live native New Hampshire wildlife, we're able to do those in a virtual format. And we usually use Zoom for that. And the themes of our programmings run everything from Have to Have a Habitat, which is a popular one for the 2nd grade group, where we talk about what it is that animals need to survive and where they live. And we use a specific animal like this porcupine to dive into that a little more. This morning, I taught a program to a group of 3rd graders on predators, which did not feature a porcupine. And we taught a group of 2nd graders about New Hampshire's endangered species. And so all of those different topics feature our live animals here in the classroom. We focus on interactivity as much as we can. So instead of us just talking the whole time, like I'm currently doing, we really keep the group sizes small, even in a virtual environment, so that we can ask a lot of questions of the students, and the students can ask us questions, and we can have the opportunity to hear from students individually. Some of our students connect to us from home on their own devices. Sometimes we connect to a whole classroom at once and they project it up on one large screen. And sometimes it's a combination of both for schools that have hybrid, remote, and in-person learning happening. So it's been a great way for us to keep connected with students and help teachers engage their students in science in this virtual way. As Susie mentioned at the Harris Center, we are doing some in-person programming here too at Squam Lakes Natural Science Center. It's all outdoors and all small group programs. We will be open this spring starting May 1st. So if schools are able to travel and are looking to do that, our live animal exhibit trail will be open. Schools can come to walk the exhibit trail and see the animals and do a small group in-person program. That is either a live animal program outdoors or some hands-on programming outdoors as well. So we'd invite folks to contact us to learn a bit more about that. Leanne, would you mind putting that last slide up of our website? Jump ahead there. Well, you have to show that cute baby porcupine, right? Great, thank you so much. So on our website, which is nhnature.org, if you go to the Learn tab, then you can go to the page for teachers and schools and learn about in-person programs and all of our virtual programs and reach out to us to get something scheduled. We love to connect with you in whatever way is possible with you and your students this year. If anyone has porcupine questions, I'm happy to take them before I put this guy away.
Any questions for Audrey about the porcupine before we pass it off to our next presenter?
Does your sweet porcupine friend have a name?
A great question. And actually, we don't give our animals pet names because we like people to remember their wild animals. The animals we have with us here at the Science Center have been injured or orphaned. Something happened to them so they can't survive in the wild on their own. And so to help people remember that the wild is really the best place for these animals, we just call them what they are. So, but we also give them a number which indicates the year they came to live with us. So this is Porcupine 13. That's how he's referred to here. Came to live with us in 2013. That was also the year he was born. This porcupine was orphaned as a youngster.
Audrey, is that porcupine sort of average size, or so right now it looks huge, but I suppose when we see them in the wild, they're often in trees or farther away. So
yeah, this porcupine weighs around 25 pounds. Porcupines can range from 10 pounds up to 40, although not too many reach that upper scale. So it's a pretty average size. We have another male porcupine that only weighs about 15 pounds, so it's quite a bit smaller than this one. So he's kind of on the large side, but he's not as gigantic as he might look on the screen, which is sort of the fun thing about these virtual programs, is students can get a really close look at a lot of these animals. When we have our bat in programs, we hold it right up to the camera and we feed it mealworms. So people get to look inside the mouth and see the teeth, things like that. So it's kind of a fun twist on live animal programs to get this view.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Now we will have Nora from Tin Mountain Conservation Center share what cool virtual programs they have.
all right, yes. So Leanne and NHEE, thank you so much for inviting us to join in this conversation. My name is Nora Dufalo. I'm the program director here at Tin Mountain, and next to me is Mike Dufalo, the high school programs manager. And a lot of what we're going to say is going to sound a lot like what is going on at some of the other nature centers and environmental organizations around the state. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, Tin Mountain Conservation Center is located in Albany, New Hampshire in the Mount Washington Valley. We've been around since 1980 and we work we were founded to work with, to teach hands-on science in the local schools. And that is still a large part of what we do. We have sort of three main pillars of our programming. We have our schools and camp programs, which Mike will talk about momentarily. We have our research and land stewardship program, and then we have our public programming, our nature program series, and adult courses. So yes, like everyone else, here's one of our staff meetings. Actually, this image is from our holiday card this year, since we couldn't get close to one another. We jumped on the virtual bandwagon pretty early on, which was pretty surprising for us, since most of us tend to be a little hesitant when it comes to technology. But we made that shift to Zoom, I think right in the end of March last year. And so we have been offering programs, both public programs and schools programs and camp programs through Zoom for last year, other programs, I should say. Back before, prior to a year ago, we had been offering around 80 nature programs every year. Most of our evening programs were held in our beautiful great room at our Nature Learning Center in Albany. It's, sort of a funny thought now of, putting 80 to 100 people in a room like that to watch a presenter live. Now, most of our programs look a lot like what's going on now. We offer, presentations and presenters from all around the region, focusing on different topics. Right, the one that's shown here is from a recent program on the state of the New Hampshire moose population with Fish and Game's Moose Project leader, Henry Jones. So in the past year, we've offered over 40 virtual programs, and they've been very well received from our audience. And one of the silver linings that a number of the other organizations have mentioned is that with doing virtual programming and using Zoom is that you can record the programs for later viewing, which we have done, and we found that a lot of people are choosing to access our content that way, either folks who attended the program and are going back to follow up, or those that were unable to make the live programming. As far as that public programming content goes, the easiest way to find out about it is right on our website, tinmountain.org. Right on our homepage, you'll see we have our events calendar runs on the right side of the page. So you can see coming up next week, we have a program on Consumer's Guide to Electric Vehicles. We are offering some in-person programming outside, that those are all masked and socially distanced. That's that Pondicherry birding trip you see located there. On our homepage as well, there is an option to access our YouTube channel where a lot of that recorded content is stored.
All right. Just muscling on here. All right, so I'm going to talk briefly about the school programs and camp programs we're doing. And we definitely have moved from older modalities. So if you look at the slide there, look at that picture now, just, all the kids are crammed close together. We're on a field trip, no one's masked. I look at that picture now and it, makes me sweat, makes me nervous. So we've had to really kind of change what we do. And so it's moving from those older modalities to the reality of what some students' futures look like, which is on a device, right? So plugged in and on a device. The way that we have done that is through a couple different ways. And Tin Mountain has really stayed pretty true to and committed to in-person environmental education. So a lot of our programming is still taking place at schools. It is entirely outdoors. We just work with bubbled cohorts. Everyone's masked, they're distanced. And for I would say 99.9% of the time, we have not walked into a school building. I know I have not, and I can't think of any other naturalists that have. And it's great that we've still been able to offer these programs. I'd also like to point out, if you look at the right of that picture, that's my lovely wife leading the field trip. here in our town. So we're still committed to trying face-to-face learning with students and getting them outdoors. And the way that we do that is really working with school administrators and teachers just to make it happen. I have sat down at the high school level. I've sat down with the teachers and administrators I work with, and we decided that getting students outdoors, having field science experiences and having field trips was so important that we were going to make changes to the schedule, make changes to logistical changes to what the day looks like in order to have that happen. So in this case, this is a group of students that I was able to take on a field trip because they took the class, they sliced it down and into the smallest cohort they possibly had. And then we just ran, 4 or 5 different field trips to the same spot over the course of a couple of weeks. And so in doing that, we were able to keep the group small, stay outside, stay masked, but also still allow them to have a field experience, which I think is really important during these times. And it would not be possible without that flexibility from administrators and with teachers as well, especially UA teachers. UA teachers have been great because they tend ones who are moving schedules around. The other thing we're doing is just having hyper local field trips. So this is one of our teacher naturalists, and they're just on a walking field trip. So a naturalist who visits the school once a week and always outside. And so in this case, where we normally would get on a bus and go somewhere, they're just taking walking field trips and looking at things that are directly in the schoolyard or just even in the town. For those times that when we can't meet students face-to-face, trying to make sure that we do offer some virtual classes. So that's reaching homeschooled students, medically vulnerable, and really just making sure that there aren't any students that are left behind, because there certainly are students. We've been lucky where we are in the Mount Washington Valley in that we have had face-to-face learning all year long. So our SAU has been in school the entire year, and we recognize that we're very lucky in that. There are some schools that have not been face-to-face throughout the year. And so for those schools, we have tried to reach out through different programming. And so one way that we've been doing that, for example, one of our naturalists just yesterday was doing owl pellets. And so what they did is those school buses that either drop off meals or make the rounds were able to drop off those supplies for those students. And then the naturalist could conduct the lesson virtually, but the students had all the materials in front of them. So they had everything they needed to dissect an owl pellet. And it was done through dispersing those materials through the normal bus route. Even though those buses weren't carrying any kids, we could still make it happen that those buses could get out there and get these materials for students. Because we realize it is challenging for some families to have to come pick things up. May not be safe if we have lots of families showing up and trying to pick up materials. Just another way to work with administrators and teachers to try and ease that burden and make it happen. Along those same lines, during summer camp, what we decided to do is we had an initiative called Summer Camp Challenge. And in that, we pre-recorded videos. Since we couldn't have our traditional summer camp, we pre-recorded videos for 6 or 7 weeks. And then campers would come and pick up the materials individually at our center, and then they would watch the video. And so some of those videos were making solar ovens, some of them were dissecting owl pellets. And at the end of those 6 weeks, if they managed to complete all of those tasks, they got a camp t-shirt and a couple other, like a prize bag. And it was great. And it definitely reached a group of campers that may not have been able to come for a week, or ones that lived farther away. So it was really an interesting thing that I think we might keep going into this summer as well. All right, wrapping it up here. The most important thing, right? So I feel, at least in my opinion, in the high schools that I work with, the most important thing that we are doing is we are normalizing these challenging times. We're taking what's been a challenge emotionally, academically for students, and we're trying our best to make things feel normal and to help them out. And so the way that we're doing that is through, I feel, exemplary science education. And in this picture, I'm over my time, but in this, I'm gonna say it anyway. In this picture is me leading, this is a monarch migration study that I'm doing with one of the local high schools. And this year, despite everything going on, I probably had my most successful year in reaching numbers of students, and as well as the kind of in-depth field science we're doing. We had over 150 students participate in a monarch migration study. Every single student in every single science at this high school came and was a part of this. And the only reason we could do it is because of these cohorted bubbles. Because we had that ability of bringing small groups down, and they were already taking mass breaks, and they already had this time built in. And so it really was this open window for us to try and explore new ideas. All right, so that's 10 Mountain. Those are the things we've been working on, and I should turn it over to the next person.
Thanks so much. You all are very inspiring. I am actually the next presenter, so let's see. So my name is Leanne Reynolds, and so in addition to NHEE work, I work at the Squam Lakes Association in Holderness, New Hampshire, not to be confused with the Science Center, which is right down the street. And we are still all virtually, so we're not offering any in-person programs at this moment. And I'm going to just give you a quick little tour of our website. So all of our virtual programs are created and led by our AmeriCorps members. So we have a group of Lakes Region Conservation Corps members who serve at the Squam Lakes Association and a few other environmental organizations around the state, or conservation organizations like Green Mountain Group, Newfound Lakes Association. Different organizations have members who are part of the Lakes Region Conservation Corps. So if you're an organization, we are often looking for partners where to place members. So if you're in that realm, contact us, and you can find lots of information about the Lakes Region Conservation Corps on our website. And so on average, those members are in their 20s, fresh out of college, and they're looking to gain skills in conservation work and environmental education. And so that's what I focus on, is the education piece. And so under the education tab on our website, you can go to the Share, Learn, Adventure page, which is where we post a lot of the videos that we've pre-recorded, as well as just different prompts and activities. So if you're a classroom teacher, this is a great place to check out and get ideas, to show a quick video, maybe about how to use a dichotomous key or make an origami moose. Learn about what a watershed is. There's a lot on this page to explore. And then we also have been offering live Zoom programming, like many of you have been doing. And you can see that on our upcoming events page, and you can click and see the full view calendar to check out what we're offering this month. And so these again are created by our AmeriCorps members, and I give them a lot of freedom. So we never really know what's coming up next, because they go with what they're passionate about or they want to learn more about. So like this Saturday, one of our members is going to do a program on creative writing, and she's going to provide a little prompt with, like, each person will get a nature, and so then they're going to write a little story or a poem without using the word of that nature item. So like maybe I have loon and I write a beautiful poem, and then I share it and everyone has to guess. So I think as a teacher, these could be really fun programs to encourage your students to attend and maybe give extra credit. Or if you see a program that you would like us to bring into your classroom virtually, we can zoom in and do a quick virtual program. And then we often, when we do that, we a local elementary school, and it was focused on wildlife tracks. And I just heard back from them that they loved it and had a great time. And even one of the groups even saw some deer when they were out looking for their wildlife tracks, which was kind of fun to hear. That's pretty rare with a group of students that you actually see wildlife. So that's what we have going on at the SLA. I am going to turn it over to Jim.
So my name's Jim Cruikshank. I'm the program manager at Remick Country Doctor Museum and Farm, and we're located up in Tamworth, New Hampshire. And kind of similar to previous things, we pretty well had to shut down last March. And unfortunately, at the museum, we have relatively limited access to internet and definitely Wi-Fi outside and cell service and things. So I kind of made the decision early to really focus on YouTube. That way it'd be something that we can continually share. And I really tried to focus on kind of encouraging participants to watch a video, but then continue on and do things safely either in their houses or outside. And then that theme has kind of continued on, whether it's been nature or farm oriented. So I've just kind of made a quick kind of video of the videos that I've been making, and really kind of showing what we've been trying to, what I've been focusing on. So really bringing people on tours of the farm and the things that we would do when we welcome people during the spring, summer, fall, whatever season we're at. But really giving a chance for people to, even while we couldn't visit so much or maybe farther away, just interact, but then also talk about our relationships between our farms and our local ecosystems and how we can be a part of that. So, it's come for the baby animals and then stay for some learning. So one of the big parts that we have are our animals. We have a very wide assortment of heritage breeds and other classic New England farm animals that have been around for the entirety of agriculture throughout. So as a as a museum as well, we like to tie the past into the present. Sadie loves her, that's Sadie the mini horse, and she really likes the sun. And along with having our animals, we do provide farm fresh food to the local community. And so teaching about people where their food comes from, and how we're doing that in as a sustainable way as we can at this moment. But I also, again, want to really encourage the idea that just because we're on a farm doesn't mean we're not environmental and outdoor education. Everything is, it's an ecosystem. We are all tied in together. And so I try and bring in the idea of we are impacting things, or how can we not impact things? So I like to focus on the animals that are visiting us. I also really like to do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. That this has been an opportunity actually for us to share stories that hadn't been able to be told because visitors can't go to some parts of the farm, or they're not there at times when the farm team is wrapping baleage or baling hay at different parts of the property, or moving water around. And so being able to kind of highlight some of the other things going on on the farm that wouldn't otherwise be possible has been a really fun story to tell as well. And so the silver lining has been an opportunity to kind of branch out and think, oh, how can we do things a little bit differently? One thing that is a little discouraging is that I can't interact with people as much because it is all on YouTube, and that's something I'm hoping to try and keep going with this. But I do want and try to encourage people to kind of, I guess, be enthused after they see things and go out and then try and explore again, whether it's something about the farm or nature, depending on where we're at. But again, we have things that people may have seen. They might not realize that cows get their hooves trimmed so that they're staying safe, then they don't get overgrown and damage their hooves. And so we can have a professional and watch this process, which again, our museum visitors, they would have never seen this process because it happened on a random Saturday for 3 hours on the barn side where people don't really walk through very much. So this is a nice story that we were able to tell via YouTube. And again, it's something for health and safety for our animals that isn't necessarily a well-known thing. Plus, it's fun to watch the cows go up and down on the cattle chute, which is kind of interesting. Similar is shearing the sheep, a necessary thing, and we could talk about our resources. you know, where do a lot of our natural materials come from, whether it's food or other things. So being able to kind of share these experiences of the farm team and doing things that are day to day for us, but certainly are not for those who don't get to experience the farm very much. So the YouTube videos and kind of sharing things on social media has been a great way to share these types of things. And then we have pretty expansive garden centers, which I've been really trying to build up since I've been here. And that was kind of a thing that was happening was I was right in the midst of kind of completely tearing down all of the old programming and starting from new on this kind of mix of history and future and sustainable farming. And then the pandemic happened. So being able to share and then encourage people to go and do monarch hunts and, you know, work with organizations that are doing those things, or plant their own gardens, whether they have a lot of space or not very much. I mean, we can even do herbs and microgreens on your windowsill. And again, showing things that are happening at the farm, but also then sharing ways that people can interact at home too. And then as background as an environmental educator myself, I make sure that we go out on our nature trails and outdoor areas and share what's happening. So, you know, seeing woodpecker excavations during the winter has been fantastic. And again, trying to encourage people to get out, whether it's on our property, which we've kept open throughout this entire thing, whether we were able to interact with people or not. We've really tried to welcome people to the farm so that they could come and visit, see things from the video for themselves if they're local enough. You know, we've kept it free during a lot of the pandemic, just so people can get out, have a safe place where they can socially distance. And I've done some homeschool programming and other little bit of like pod work and things like that. Again, everything outside, but really a focus on kind of the virtual programs and then trying to associate that with their worlds or you know, at least the greater world around them. It really shows that kind of connectedness of ecosystem, interdependence that we see between different organisms. Really cool work. And it probably isn't sharing the video sound, but that was just me narrating over the top of it, which isn't the most exciting. But that is that's basically what I've been able to be doing during this time. Certainly looking forward to really getting back to welcoming more people and more traditional methods, but it has been fun being able to kind of build a YouTube program and seeing results with that and having people kind of follow that along. So that's what I've been working on right now.
Thanks, Jim. Now we'll have Mark Nutter from New Hampshire Audubon share what they've been up to.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Nutter. I'm the grants manager at New Hampshire Audubon. And for those of you that you don't know, New Hampshire Audubon is a state-based environmental nonprofit organization that's completely independent from National Audubon. And we rely on support from members and donors to support our charitable mission, which has 4 pillars, one of which is environmental education and connecting people to nature. Another one is researching and conserving species in peril. We also manage 10,000 acres of wildlife sanctuaries throughout the state for habitat and recreation. And we also advocate for sound environmental policy in New Hampshire State Legislature. And today I get to talk to you all about our virtual program offerings, which are delivered by our experienced environmental educators. And we have three themes. We've done some pre-recorded distance learning lessons. We've also done some live remote school-oriented presentations, as well as more generalized public-oriented presentations. So starting with the distance learning programs, these are our pre-recorded programs that target an audience in grades 3 to 6, as well as homeschool. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek into our new website, which was just redesigned this past year. And this page that I'm showing you now isn't live yet, but I think it'll be live by this time next week. And this is the page that's going to house these distance learning lessons. And each of these lessons is packaged with a pre-recorded lesson about 50 minutes long. We also have student knowledge assessments for before and after, and other guided observation activities and worksheets, as well as external resources and extension ideas. And obviously we're still there behind the screens to provide that educator content as well as technical support. And right now we have 4 lessons that are we're unveiling next week. Animal habitats, birds all around us, raptor rapture, and food chains. And when this is live, a teacher or a parent or a library will be able to visit this website, click on this button to register, go through a paywall, and then you automatically get a username and password, which then you as an educator can share with your entire class to be able to see the content page. And this is an example of one of the lesson content pages, which has a linked YouTube video that's a private video that's only viewable here on this page. And then the course materials. And so here's an example of a vocabulary sheet that might be useful for a student to walk through and to have as they view the video. And here's an example of a bird. This is a good example that really goes along with that pre-recorded video that our naturalist Kelly Dwyer created and references this bird song challenge within the video. And so again, we've got 4 of those right now. We might make more of them depending on if folks find them useful and helpful in their own classes. And this is again on that splash page where you'll be able to see kind of a sampling of what is inside those videos. And we also have the last one is for raptor rapture. So very similar to other organizations that have live animals, this way to interact with students and show them these animals up close has been a real pleasure for us. And you know, once a teacher purchases a lesson, they'll have access to all of those resources that I showed you. For 2 to 4 weeks, we're definitely still figuring it out, and we are able to work with you to make sure that you have the information for as long as you want. But as other folks on today's meeting have said, really that interaction is way better through Zoom. So this is an example of how some of our educators have a stage when they do their live programs to be able to pick up a skull or a feather or a talon or fur to show those students up close through Zoom and ask them questions and answer questions. And Wilhelmina Soroka has been leading our urban wildlife education program, where we reach students in the urban core of Manchester right now. And she's done her programs both live and pre-recorded just to meet the needs of the educators that we're working with. And finally, I'll just add that some of our naturalist-led programs aren't specifically for school groups. We've given these programs online remotely to scout groups and garden clubs, as well as some libraries. And yeah, and we've just started dipping our toes in the water of in-person programming. Christian Robinson, whose contact information is right here, has been leading monthly night hikes on the full moon at our Massabesic Center in Auburn. And we plan on continuing to do that, as well as offering some in-person and remote programming for April vacation week. It won't be a fully in-person whole week, whole day of program, but there'll be opportunities to see live ambassador animal programs in the morning via Zoom, as well as going on guided hikes in the afternoon with small family groups. So thank you so much for your time. And yeah, please reach out if you're interested in booking a program with us.
Thanks so much, Mark. I'd just like to take a second to thank all of the different organizations who shared the amazing virtual programs that they're offering, as well as some live in-person programs, which is exciting to hear. And we do have a few minutes if there's anybody, any participants who have a question, or even any presenters who have questions for other presenters. We can stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions that folks might have. Feel free to just unmute yourself if you have a question.
Could you tell me more about the monarch migration project?
I would love to. So that is a collaboration between Tin Mountain and Freiburg Academy in Oxford County, Maine. And so what we did is we set up, they have a lower field that's hayed, about 60-acre field that's hayed. And we set aside, oh gosh, maybe 2 acres of it and asked for that not to get hayed. And ran transect lines on it. So myself, as well as one of the science teachers, went out there, plotted out, GPSed all the transect lines and ran transect lines out there. And then we used, there's a program out of the University of Wisconsin, and it's called the Monarch Joint Venture Program, which is a national database. And so the idea is, so with that high school, what we're doing is we're setting up 4 long-term research projects that are based on the seasons, as well as correlated to core competencies for each class. So like biology students might do the Monarch program, but environmental science students might do a forest plot study. So we're trying to correlate it to standards and competencies so that it doesn't seem as a burden for our teachers. And basically I went in and I did one in-person class with each section. So it was like, oh geez, I don't know, 20 sections of students, something like that. And then pre-recorded 2 virtual classes that they watched. And then we had big data collection days where I would meet them out there, and they had about an hour and we'd go through the steps. And really with that one, and with all of them, with any kind of field research with high school students, we're doing a lot of like the introduction to sampling. Like, this is what it means. This is kind of what this looks like. And if we get data that we can submit to a national database at the end of it, then that's awesome. And so, but definitely it's an introduction to field science. And so with all 4 of the projects we have set up, they all correlated with national databases because we wanted real scientists to use it. We've also, with that one, linked up with some of the math and stats classes. And so they're now actually using that data in their math and stats class to kind of play and have kids understand stats. So that's kind of a cool side thing, as well as a way to break down some of the silos within the high school.
Very cool. Yeah, that piqued my interest because our science team is doing research on monarch butterflies this fall. We're building out the Motus wildlife tracking network throughout New England, and a sub-project of that is going to be nano-tagging monarchs to be able to track their migration
Oh, wow.
a little bit more accurately, hopefully, than the mark recapture method. It'll be like a nano transmitter pinging a tower as it flies by.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
The one issue that we had, or that we've run into, is that school, at least in Western Maine, sometimes starts the first or second week of September. So we're like really at the limit of where we're going to find any monarchs. So with we've also expanded it to just evidence of monarchs. So we have a lot of field guides on monarch specific chew and what instar stage the monarchs might be in when they're chewing. And that was really helpful as well, because by the time we got to the last sections of class out for their field data collection days, we weren't finding a whole lot of monarchs.
Well, if there are no other questions, I'd just like to once again thank everybody. And again, this is recorded, so folks can always check back and to see what things are being offered. And I will put all of the links to all of the organizations who are here with us today in the description where we post the video as well. So thank you again, everyone, and have an awesome day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. We'll see you.